right, and we are back. Drive Safe Dave here along with Sir Rick. And we have here in studio with us today, joining us virtually is Bob Perry. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing well. Thanks, guys.
All right, Bob, you are the president of Health and Transportation. What is Health and Transportation, Bob?
We work in providing health and wellness services for carriers for their drivers to help these drivers stay safe on the road and help them maintain their livelihood by helping them pass their DOT exams. And we lose about 325,000 drivers a year because they can't pass their medical exams.
What got you involved in this, Bob? I mean, obviously, what got you involved in this?
I come from a family of professional drivers. I have two brothers who still drive today. I grew up in it. I understand it. I drove myself long enough to realize that that's not what I wanted to do for a profession. So I worked in the health and wellness and healthcare arena for a number. Was always drawn back to working with professional drivers because it's really an underserved population. And you gentlemen, as you talk all the time about safety, well, you can't be safe if you're not well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Bob. Let me ask you a quick question. I was a professional driver for a while, and as you can see, why is it that drivers are typically more unhealthy than other people?
Well, a lot of it has to do with accessibility, right? They don't have access to services like folks who have that are not living on the road. And it's not necessarily that they're unhealthy as anybody else. It's just that, their job demands are so tough and they really can't fit it in to do something about it. I not driving anymore. I fly everywhere around the country, and so I can tell you when I get on those airplanes, most of the population on there could, be in a health program as well. But drivers get really put in that category because of their lifestyle and how tough it is for them. And like I said, they don't have access to try and do something about it.
I was reading a couple of really quick facts, Bob, and one of them was that 51% of over-the-road drivers are actually smokers, and that 44% of the drivers report chronic pain, and that the average life expectancy of a driver is 61 years old, which is 16 years lower than the national average. These should be alarm bells going off, right? That we all should take note of about driver health.
They really should be, but unfortunately they're not. Our father was a victim of those stats. He made it to 69 after driving 40-some years. But it's the toughness of the job. We don't train them. We train them how to drive, go frontwards and backwards and those things, but we don't train them how to live on the road, live healthy. And it's tough. Being a professional driver, as you know, if you did before, it comes with a lot of withouts. Without access, like I said, to healthcare, good healthcare, most 90-some% of the drivers out there do not have a personal provider, healthcare provider. The last doctor they saw was the last DOT doctor they saw.
Let me ask you a question, Bob. And obviously we have a problem and everything. What is it? How are you helping the drivers? So how are you doing it, and what is it you're doing? Because we really want to talk about your mission and what's going on out there with you.
Well, what we do, one, is that we just help drivers make simple changes every day that they don't know, and try to be active. The numbers I've pulled and working with drivers over the years, the average driver consumes about 4,500 calories a day. And a lot of that comes from liquid, a lot of sugar drinks, and just helping them focus on, making better choices. My philosophy is give me 50%, make a 50% better choice every day. And you'll see a reduction and you'll see a difference. And the great thing, what I love about working with this population is because when they make these changes, it has a direct reflection on their inside, their blood pressure, their heart rate, their sugar count, and so forth. And those are things that are governed about them keeping their medical card, being able to keep their livelihood. And when you're a professional driver, like what you've been able to move into. Most drivers don't have that ability. That's what they do is they drive a truck. And if they don't do that, there's a lot of collateral damage to the family they go without.
Do carriers also have a responsibility to the driver? I mean, the driver obviously has a responsibility to themselves, but do the carriers have responsibility, and how can they help also the driver?
Well, it's a very good question. Thanks for asking that. And I really feel they do.
Blake,
It's kind of like,
frozen.
if you gentlemen are sports fans, and if you watched what was going on last week about the gentleman that, had the concussion, and, they're supposed to have these protocols, and they end up putting it back on the field, and, who has the responsibility? Players, typically, they're going to want to play, right? But it's somebody's responsibility to protect that player. I think it's a responsibility for the carrier to help protect their drivers and give them the necessary tools they need to make sure they're safe out there on the road, and put them in a good wellness program where they have access to a coach and help them make better choices.
I agree with you. I think it's an opportunity that carriers can take to protect their drivers. I mean, that's their workforce. I think it's genuinely in their best interest. Not only it would help them, obviously help them in their health insurance. It would help them in keeping the drivers around a lot longer. And ultimately, it's going to be a much healthier environment make it safer out there on the road if the drivers are safe. I mean, healthier, right? I mean, they're obviously making their own. They're benefiting. The carrier's benefiting immensely by doing something to make it better for the drivers.
Well, and also too, some statistics I worked on was about 55% of the driver pool. If you have a driver pool, whether it's 200 or 2,000, most likely 55% of those drivers are operating on either a 90-day card or a 1-year card. And those are skilled drivers. Those are drivers, people who know they want to be a driver, and they're skilled. Why would you not want to, protect the driver today before you hire the next unknown driver tomorrow?
And as we talk, I don't want to get off the carrier for a minute. How does a carrier go about helping their drivers? I understand that they're involved, but let's be specific, Bob, on what they can do, because I really think it's important that we get a hold of a group that communicate every day, that work with every day, that talk to every day, the carrier. What is it the carrier can do to start right away to benefit the driver?
So they can reach out to the company that I consult with, and we have a program called Fit to Pass. And Fit to Pass just does that. We contract with the carrier, we assign a coach to the driver, and we stay in touch with that driver. We have incentive programs and fitness challenges, and just find out what is really their challenge, whether it's blood pressure, sugar, whatever. And we coach those drivers up, and they can get these drivers support and help that they can help them make sure they maintain their biometrics out there on the road and make simple changes. And also a program called Talk Now, where they can pick up the phone 24/7 and talk to a licensed clinician if they need help and need to talk to somebody. And there's other programs out there. There's other support programs out there as well. I mean, there's a couple other companies out there that offer support, and if or putting a coach on site, giving them some education material. There's a lot of simple things that they can do, and I don't know what the right program is for that carrier, but I do know the wrong one, and that's to do nothing at all.
What are let's switch over to the driver themselves. I think it's important that we all take personal responsibility. Obviously, I wouldn't hurt if I was a bit healthier as well, and to try to do that, my wife is constantly working on me. I will tell you that, Bob. And she's always trying to make sure that I eat right and do right. I don't always follow the guidelines. And I'm just going to tell you, believe it or not, I put some of the stressors in my life as part to blame for my inability to make good, healthy choices. And I think drivers fall into that same category. Don't you agree? Certain things that, because most people don't understand or get it, that life continues to happen even when you're out there on the road.
Absolutely. And one of the things when I first started in this business many years ago doing what I do now, I used to track, what really was very upsetting for the drivers, what really, made them really frustrated. Number one was they got in a fight with their dispatcher. Number two, number two is they got a distress call from home, right? The basement's flooded. Johnny got kicked out of school. I need $200, and you're out there on the road, and how are you going to do that? And number three was a four-wheeler cut them off. And those are things that drive a driver to get aggravated, reach for, make bad choices, smoke, those kind of things. And when I was listening to come on, when I was in your green room, I heard you talking about pre-trip safety checks and so forth. And that's one of the first things that I tell companies that they can do that's very simple. When you're training your drivers, and we all know that that's what we integrate in their brain, right, to do the pre-trip check every time. They need to train them to do a pre-trip refrigerator check because they're going to get stuck, whether it's construction, whether it's weather, whether it's an accident, something. And when they're sitting there, and if they don't have a good choice to reach for, they're going to make a bad choice.
Wow.
So as simple as carrying, some healthy snacks, some, water and so forth, and it just should be. I mean, I've been fighting this battle for years. Is that, and you gentlemen are in that business, how simple that would be to be at the first step. It's okay, Tim, before you get in the truck, check your fridge. Make sure you got some good healthy snacks in there to reach for because you're going to get stuck out there today. It's wintertime. It's going to be snowstorms. Could be an act, whatever, right? And I don't want you sitting there burning cigarettes and slamming down power drinks.
Yeah, Bob, I'll agree with you. Being out there, it was always easy to reach for a bag of chips, right? Always easy to reach for a Coke. Dealing with it, personally, one of the things I had issue with, I didn't sleep well, and I still don't. I'm not the greatest sleeper in the world, but I think even that can add to your inability to make great choices out there. And I like the idea of communicating being prepared, right? I mean, we do the pre-trip, but being prepared to make good choices later. I think that's absolutely going to be fun. If I don't load the truck up with potato chips, I'm probably not going to reach for them.
Right. It's PPM. It's personal preventive maintenance. Just like we do PM on the truck and equipment, right?
Right.
We have all this technology that can check the engine, the life of the engine. Is there going to be a potential breakdown when we're out there on the highway? Tires, all that stuff. Transmissions, we do all that. But think about it. When you drove, did they do anything to make sure that your engine was running properly? Did they help you take a peek under your personal hood? Did they have you do any screens to check your oil?
No.
To see if you were potentially in danger? No. I don't get it. I mean, it's so simple and so cost effective because you can blow an engine, you can put a new engine in, but you can't put a new driver in.
Bob, I've always thought this, and drivers go out and because they're required to get a health card, because they're required to have a DOT physical, they truly believe they've seen a doctor more than anybody else, and they're okay. I've come to realize that was a big, I did that for years. I saw the doctor 4 months ago when I got my DOT physical. That should never take the place of a primary care physician or actually going in and getting and taking care and getting things looked at that may be wrong. Am I right, Bob?
You're exactly right. And a lot of that is because, once again, drivers don't have accessibility. I tell you, there's a new company coming on the scene called Galileo. And Galileo is going to, I really believe that they're going to make a difference in that. They're going to be able to have a driver have like a dock in the cab with them.
Nice.
And so they're going to be coming out with programs as well. And all these kind of programs like that, I always support because they can make a difference. I mean, I work in the space, like I said, I got two brothers out there still driving. I want my brothers and every other driver to retire healthy and to be able to enjoy their livelihood and when they're done driving. And, everybody else gets the opportunity to that. Why not drivers? Because they are the most essential workers out there today. I mean, as the saying goes, if you got it, truck brought it. And I'm something else I wanted to mention. I'm afraid that we're losing a little bit of the feeling of, when we went through the pandemic, people were out, really promoting the drivers and appreciating them. And I feel like now it's gone back to where it was before. They're not as much. And like we had Driver Appreciation Week. I mean, it's kind of like, Valentine's Day. I don't need one day of the year to tell my spouse, my loved ones, how much I appreciate them. We should be doing that every day. And we should be doing the same thing for drivers every day. I mean, we got to have milk every day, right? We don't get it once a week, once a year, I mean. So why not show them how much you appreciate them every day and coming from the carriers, and hopefully that would help on some of the turnover.
You know what, Bob, I think you're absolutely right. Do me a favor, tell me what espire.com is and what does it stand for? I see that on your lower thirds. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah. So Aspire they've been around for about 32 years. They're one of the largest and also one of the most effective as far as in the mental health space. Unfortunately, any catastrophe you may see on ESPN, like that nasty event we had down at the school in Texas, that's Aspire getting people on the ground, talking to the people involved, whether it be employees and people affected, and helping them, mentally support and getting them back. And that's what Aspire does. They have the Fit to Pass program. They also have the Talk Now that's part of Fit to Pass. So for drivers that are stressed, they can pick up the phone and talk to someone 24/7. I mean, I think you'd agree, we all could use someone to talk to at some point in time.
Absolutely. Bob, how do they get a hold of you or your organization, whether you're a carrier or a driver? It doesn't matter, right? You just reach out.
Right. No, it doesn't. Yeah, just reach out go to Aspire, espyr.com, and you can read about there and what they can do for you. And if you're a carrier or a driver, and get help. And like I said, save the driver today before you hire the next unknown one tomorrow.
Man, I do appreciate it, you being on, Bob. I think it's an important message. It's one that we look at last, right? I mean, honestly, we as drivers, we make sure our truck's running. We make sure our trailer's good to go. We make sure the load gets there. But we rarely take care of ourselves in the way that we should. And I think it's an important message that you're getting out there. I thank you for that.
I appreciate it.
Before you go, Bob, I ask everybody, if you would, for me, do me a favor. I ask everybody to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that, Bob?
This is Bob Perry watching BCB Live, safest channel in the nation.